Hey wine fans, my name is John Domenico and I'm joined today by the winemaker's daughter, my mom, Julie Balistreri, here in the tasting room.
And we're going to talk about decanting.
Exactly. Hopefully we can demystify some of the questions you have around decanting. And to do so, we're going to talk about the why, the when, and the how. Starting with the why, when it comes to decanting, there's typically one of two reasons you'd be decanting a wine. The first is if you have a younger wine that you want to expose to oxygen. Sometimes with a younger wine, when it's tight out of the bottle, it might seem like it needs to open up a little bit. And through aeration or exposure to oxygen, you're going to see a little more expressive of flavors and maybe a little more vibrancy. The second reason you'd be decanting a wine is if you have an older wine that likely has sediment and you want to separate the wine away from the sediment.
Yeah, and with Balistreri wines, they're made completely natural. So there's no sulfites in our wines. They are unfined, unfiltered, and they're fermented on the natural wild yeast that's on the grape skins. So because they're made so naturally, you are, over time, going to get that little sediment deposit. And it's harmless. There's nothing wrong with sediment. You could certainly drink it, but it's nicer to get it decanted off and away from the wine. And
yeah, exactly. So then when it comes to the when to decant, if we think about the younger wines, if you're decanting a younger wine, I suggest that you don't start by decanting. One of the funnest parts about tasting wine is seeing how a wine changes and kind of grows after the bottle has been opened. So I suggest pouring a few glasses, tasting it, drinking it, and then if it seems a little tight, then maybe you move to a decanter. Now with an older wine, you want to decant immediately, and that's because you don't want to disturb that sediment deposit that's in it. So you don't want to be shaking it around, pouring multiple glasses. So that's the when. Maybe we should decant this wine.
yeah, let's do it.
Cool. This wine was stored upside down. So when you're storing or cellaring wine, you want to keep the wine in contact with the cork. So commonly wines are going to either be laid on their side or perhaps completely upside down. This wine was completely upside down, and I removed all the wax from this bottle just so I could show you guys that as I pull this cork out, you can see that there is still some sediment deposit left on the cork. I would also add that anytime you have a wine that's either been stored on its side or perhaps upside down, it's good to flip that wine over a day ahead of time. That way any loose sediment will settle to the bottom. Now, I have a little trick for any wines that were stored completely upside down, is I take a paper towel and I just kind of roll it up into a little tube, and that's just to remove any little bits of sediment that are in the neck. So as you can see, I just kind of can roll that up, slide it in, and now I've cleaned out the neck. Now I'm ready to start decanting.
Okay, let's see the how.
So you're going to want to be decanting above a white surface. So maybe a napkin or a paper towel, something like that. And that's because as I'm pouring this wine, I'm going to be looking at the wine going down the neck of the decanter, and I'm going to watch for any signs of sediment. I would also add that I'm going to pour very slowly. With a younger wine, you can be a lot more aggressive. But with these older wines, once again, we're trying not to disturb that sediment, so I'm trying to pour nice, smooth, and slow. And maybe you can tell me a little bit about this wine I'm decanting.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's beautiful. Yeah, this is a 2014 Tempranillo. It's 6 years old, and that's why it has a little touch of sediment in it. But once you are racking that off of there, boy, it's got some really lovely colors to it, and it smells great from here.
Yeah, certainly. And so I'm going to decant this maybe a little farther than I normally would with a wine, just so I can really show you that sediment coming out of the bottle. But as I'm getting close, I'm pouring a lot slower as I get to the end of the bottle because I'm looking in the bottle and I'm seeing I'm getting right to that point where sediment's going to start to flow. And see, you can start to see some specks, and there's a little extra just to really show you guys. So now that I've decanted this wine, you are going to lose a little bit of wine, but it's really nothing to fret about because there's really only a couple tablespoons. And in this wine, if I were to pour it into a glass, you can kind of see it's some pretty muddy stuff. And if we get close up, then you can really start to see what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But after that, once you've decanted your wine and you have all your nice old wine separated, it's time to drink it. So you can pour yourself a glass and have a taste.
And this is the best part.
Yeah, for sure. So that's all the how-tos and the whens and the whats and the whys of decanting. Hopefully you can enjoy some of these wines. If you order some of these wines and they get shipped to you, we highly recommend letting them sit for about a day because if there is any of the sediment through the shipping process, it's going to be mixed in. So after you get your shipment, stand that bottle of wine up, wait one day, and then it'll be ready to drink.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Cheers.
Cheers.